And so today we are not going to be having cameras on because we actually had some camera issues about 5 minutes ago, and I apologize for that. So it will be a little bit of a voice of God presentation. I promise you I am rather presentable and like to engage face-to-face. So please, if you'd like to have a Zoom or something else, just please send me an email, give me a phone call. Let's have a conversation. Today we're going to talk about investment-backed structures and changes that are happening in the settlement planning industry. Just a brief introduction. I was always going to work with injured people and their attorneys. My dad was an attorney for 35 years. My mother is a PhD in disability studies at SUNY Buffalo. And I became an attorney and started working directly as a personal injury litigator. Eventually, I saw a lot of people being taken advantage of in the industry on the financial side at the end. And I wanted to make a difference in that regard. So I found Milestone. And today with us as well is Amy, who's our Director of Wealth Management.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Amy Fogle. I'm the Director of Wealth Management at Monolith Advisors. We'll talk a little bit about in the next few slides all of the companies under the Seventh Amendment Holdings umbrella, Monolith being one of them. We are an RIA, a registered investment advisor, registered with the SEC. So my job at Monolith is really to manage the client experience, everything from financial planning through security selection, creating portfolios and investing our clients' assets. I have over 14 years of experience in financial services, specifically in the wealth management industry. My background is in finance with a bachelor's degree from Canisius College and also an MBA from Canisius College here in Buffalo, New York, where we're located. So I will talk a little bit later about our process, how we go through from IPS through investing our clients' assets. And again, as Sam said, if there's any questions, feel free to keep them towards the end, and we'll answer all of your questions either here on the webinar or via email afterwards. So I'll let Sam take it away.
So just briefly, Milestone generally, we have 3 public-facing companies. There's the Bears Foundation, which is our 501c3 nonprofit. It's actually the only nonprofit in the litigation funding space, and we provide direct non-recourse advances to plaintiffs, and we do so with a single-digit interest rate. This is really important because there are other companies in the industry that are loan sharking prospects. When people fall on tough times and they're awaiting a settlement, they shouldn't have to pay obnoxious interest rates. There's Milestone Consulting. Milestone provides free comprehensive settlement planning to attorneys and their clients. And this looks like all sorts of different things. I'll cover it in a second. But one of the things we do is investment-backed structures. And Monolith is able to take care of a client or attorney's finances now and far into the future. So Milestone covers a lot when we say comprehensive settlement planning. Included in that is an idea of tax-free settlement design, and within that is investment-backed structures. So this is not the only thing we do, but it's part of what we do. And I thought it was important to just show that when I say comprehensive settlement planning, I'll be talking about a couple of ideas today. That's not every idea, it's not all of what we do. But we believe a new industry standard for structured settlements is market-based and investment-backed. And this is the real key takeaway I think everyone should have from today. Now we're going to follow the story of Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan is a famous actor. He's on Saturday Night Live, or was on Saturday Night Live, Hollywood movies, the whole 9 yards. And he was hurt in a very serious motor vehicle accident. He sustained extremely significant injuries, and there was clear liability. It was a Walmart truck rear-ended him at a red light. And his attorney settled the case for an undisclosed amount of money, but today we're just going to assume an amount of $1 million. And if Tracy walked into my office and there was all sorts of settlement planning options on the wall, well, if we just walked through 3 of them, we could think of a traditional structure, usually through an annuity product, a traditional investment account, which is like a traditional wealth management account. Many of you may currently have one of those. And the third is an investment-backed structure. It's kind of a combination of the first 2. So with a traditional annuity, in today's interest rate environment, you're going to see about 1 to 2% growth, generally speaking. That growth very well may be tax-free. It actually would be tax-free if it's through a structured settlement for a plaintiff. And it's tax-free in part because it's attached to a fixed payment schedule. So there's a periodic payment obligation that will pay out to them over time. And if it's with a traditional structure, a traditional annuity, it is guaranteed. Now, traditional investment account obviously is a little bit different. More investment opportunities are available, and so we can assume a higher point of growth. So a conservative to moderate estimate, I would say, is about 5% growth on investment account. There is a great more deal of liquidity. There's no fixed payment schedule. However, the growth is taxed. So an investment-backed structure, all your investment options are open, just like with an investment account. So we can assume the same amount of growth, like a 5% growth for a conservative to moderate account. However, it's attached to a fixed payment schedule. There's a periodic payment obligation, just like an annuity product or just like a traditional structure. And so the growth on it is tax-free. And so what this ends up looking like is if you place an annuity, which is growing at 1 to 2%, versus an investment account, which is growing at 5%, you're going to see a lot more growth in the investment account, even with the tax. However, if you were using an investment-backed structure, without the tax, you're seeing even more growth. And the comparison between doing a traditional structure versus an investment-backed structure, it's just a general chart when we're assuming 5% growth for the investment back is more than $250,000 over 10 years. That's a significant number, especially if considering when settling personal injury cases, we're talking oftentimes about working people, and where even $10,000 makes a large difference in their lives. And this is probably going to be their largest familial asset. So when they come into my office, and if they're not reliant on an absolute guarantee, could be excess income, part of the settlement. Oftentimes an investment-backed structure needs to be part of the plan. And it leads to one very, very happy Tracy Morgan. And that's why we're saying the new industry standard for structured settlements is market-based, investment-backed. Now, I would just like to do a really quick overview of how it all works. We can go through step by step what you actually have to do to make it happen, a transaction review of how it looks, and then key features provided by Milestone and Monolith, where Amy can kind of walk through exactly how it feels for your client to go through the investment process with us. A lot of times people haven't had an investment advisor before they walk into our office, so they have a lot of questions, and we want to just make sure it happens all very smoothly. So what steps must you actually do as the plaintiff attorney? The first step is key. You have to connect this to the client. I know it sounds very basic, but doing so in advance is important. And we also need to direct the funds to a special type of settlement trust. And we do that through the settlement agreement, and we'll cover that in just one moment. So when to engage Milestone? It's really an important question. And typically what I recommend is when discovery is complete. This gives us enough time to plan and to connect with your client in a way where we really know what their needs are moving forward. Settlement dollars don't have to be concrete numbers. I don't need to know exactly down to the penny what the client's going to receive to really gauge what we need to do for them. A lot of the time they're coming in and they are very nervous about receiving a large amount of money and have a lot of ideas, and we need to flesh those out. And so that personalized touch takes a good amount of time. Now, the case needs to settle into a special type of trust in order to do an investment-backed structure. What that type of trust is a 468B trust, commonly referred to as a qualified settlement fund. Now, the reason why we're using a qualified settlement fund is they pause all receipt. No one has actually received any of the funds while they sit within a QSF, qualified settlement fund. There's no constructive receipt, there's no actual receipt, and you're able to structure out payments, and this is all this is all up to code with the IRS, as well as passing certain tests through the courts. The main case on this is Childs v. Commissioner. The site's right there if you want to go look at it. There are multiple types of QSFs. We have a national QSF. We do firm-wide QSFs for firm's whole inventory. We do individual case QSFs. And there we can do a whole webinar on that. We actually have whole webinars on that, but we'll touch on that later. So what specific language do you actually need in your settlement agreement? Well, it's simple. Instead of directing payment to your firm's escrow or IOLTA, maybe directly to the client, we're going to direct payment into the QSF. And oftentimes we'll name it John Doe settlement account, and the funds just flow to the John Doe settlement account instead of to John Doe. We provide the exact language we'll need. We set up the QSF, we do everything. But this needs to be negotiated with defense counsel. It's usually not an issue. They're usually none the wiser. However, it is something that must be negotiated. So what does the transaction review actually look like? How do we go from a settlement agreement to a payment schedule? From the settlement agreement, the funds flow to a qualified settlement fund. We talked about that. From the QSF, they move through an assignment, and then they sit within our holding company. The holding company actually opens the account with Monolith Advisors, and Amy in just a moment is going to talk through what that process is like. When the funds are invested, they grow, and then they're paid out according to the payment schedule. Relatively simple. And so now Amy is going to talk a little bit about our investment process.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam. So to start, as Sam went through that review, the account will be opened at Charles Schwab. That is our custodian. And the first thing that we do when we talk to our clients is really set up the investment policy statement. That is going to be a contract or roadmap that's between the client and us at Monolith. It gives us guidance on the periodic payment schedule. It allows us to understand the client's risk parameters, what their risk tolerance is, if they have an appetite for risk, if they're more risk averse, what their time horizon looks like. And the time horizon is going to be spelled out in that periodic payment schedule, but really understanding when they're taking money out. Is it monthly? Is it annually? Is it semi-annually? All of that will be documented in our IPS so that we can create or build out the best portfolio for our clients. So we also go through any objectives or anything that we need to know about the client when they're investing. If they have, maybe they don't want to invest in a certain sector or a certain industry, that's all taken care of in step one in the investment policy. This is a living, breathing document, and I say that because it's ever changing. Every year we meet with our clients and we talk through any changes that are happening in their lives or any changes in the broader market, and we can amend as we go. So moving on to step two. Sam, can you flip the, moving on to step two, the portfolio construction. So this is really where we specify the strategic allocation for our client. And what that means is that mixture between equities, fixed income or bonds, and cash. And that's really important because what we do is we ensure that their risk tolerance and their time horizon matches up with the portfolio that we're going to invest our clients in. So that strategic allocation is combining any constraints they have with their goals, and their goals are really based in that periodic payment and any growth expectations within the market. So we understand what kind of portfolio, if there would be an ultra conservative portfolio or if there would be more of an all equity or an aggressive portfolio. That's where we kind of start constructing what that asset allocation is going to look like. Now moving into step three. Step three is really the portfolio implementation. And the way we do that is using exchange traded funds. An exchange traded fund or an ETF is a basket of securities. What you can think of is the S&P 500. There's 500 companies or stocks underneath that wrapper of the S&P 500. And they can be in various industries, various sectors, but they all come together. And the reason why that's really important is it gives you diversification. So maybe one company like Ford will go up and Walmart will be going down. It gives you a smoother ride as you're holding it for a long period of time, so you don't feel the volatility that's going on in the market, specifically in the market that we're in right now with COVID and changes in our politics. There's just a lot of different market changes and that draws in volatility. So instant diversification, very important, and definitely something that we a reason why we use ETFs. Also lower costs. When you're comparing costs to something like a mutual fund, an ETF is going to have a lower cost, which is why we like them. And additionally, liquidity. So liquidity means having the ability to get cash. And with ETFs and with periodic payment schedules, when one does come up, especially if it's monthly, we want to be able to sell out of our securities, get the cash available to wire out or to ACH out to our clients. And having that underlying liquidity in our holdings is really important. Also, we're able to invest in small amounts. If we have a smaller account coming in, we're able to invest in sectors via ETFs if a client is looking for something specific. There's just a lot of different advantages when we're building out the portfolio. And then really lastly is monitoring. So that I would call it step 4, is continually monitoring our clients' portfolios, but also looking at the global market. So the outlook on the market, our macroeconomic outlook on the environment that we're in right now, and looking at the models that our clients are in on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis is really important. We ensure that we talk to our clients for an annual review somewhere in the 4th quarter. So we get on a Zoom call during COVID or a conference call, or meet them in person, hopefully at some point, where we're able to talk through that IPS, understanding any changes that are happening. And at that point, we're able to either switch or move an allocation. So I always tell clients that we can always dial up or dial down the risk in any portfolio based on the needs of our clients. And this is the point that we would really do that. So those are really the 4 steps in the investment process that we work with our clients on. And the one thing that we ensure is that our clients are comfortable and confident moving forward in how we're investing their money, because we do want to ensure that they have those periodic payment obligations, they have enough money for each one of them, and at the end, they have even more money than they started with. That's really our goal at Monolith Advisors.
And so briefly, I just want to touch upon fee. I think it's really important to be upfront when discussing any sort of fee, especially when talking about clients who you're supposed to be zealously advocating for. We do charge a one-time assignment fee to set up a investment-backed structure. And this covers all of the miscellaneous costs. We just put it all into one fee so that we are not constantly feeing clients for little things that are coming along. So these are the only 2 fees they're going to see. There's a one-time setup fee of $2,500 for the assignment, and then we charge 1% of the assets under management while we are holding and managing their funds. This is the typical fee you'll see from financial advisors across the industry. So those are the 2 ways we charge. And so again, just to go through the transaction, it goes from the settlement agreement into a qualified settlement fund. We can set that up for you and your firm. There's no issue there. The funds from the qualified settlement fund go through a series of assignments and eventually are paid out into a customizable payment stream direct to the client. While they go through the series of assignments to our holding company, and while with our holding company, they are invested. So in theory, your client or in practice, your client gets a tax-exempt, customizable investment account. It's attached to a payment stream. So it's very similar to your traditional structure, so mean tied up in an annuity, you are investing the funds on their behalf. We can do this for attorneys as well. The attorney process is not tax exempt, it's just tax deferred. So there was $1 million fee being paid to an attorney. They can place it into a qualified settlement fund, move it through the same series of assignments. It resides with a holding company that is investing the funds on their behalf. It is eventually paid out to them through a customizable payment stream, and then they have a tax-deferred customizable investment account. The way that looks is instead of having the tax hit right away, you can invest it for a period of time. It's very similar to like a unlimited 401k. So that presentation took 20 minutes. We try to do this very quick over the lunch hour. We do one a month just about, so feel free to keep looking out for them in the future if you found this helpful. I know we covered a lot of information in a short amount of time. If you have any questions, there's a control panel on the right side of your screen. You can ask them now. You can also reach out to me and Amy. We are always available. And we're happy to speak to you or your clients if there's a settlement you have a question about. So yeah, thank you for attending. I'm gonna wait about maybe 2 minutes for a question to come in because I know sometimes it can take some people some time to write. All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for attending today's presentation. I hope it was informative and helpful. It looks like there are no questions at this time. So thank you for attending and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.